Welcome to UBI Unplugged, breaking down the future of income. Alright, hey everyone, glad to be back. Hey, excited for today's chat, especially given everything that's going on. Yeah, definitely. Today we are diving into the deep end, lots to unpack, and it feels like it is moving pretty fast, specifically with the announcement of DOGE. It's everywhere, right? Absolutely, the Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE, it's certainly making waves. I mean, you can't really escape hearing about it. And it's not just the name, it's the whole concept, the implications. It's like this massive experiment, isn't it? You hear Elon Musk, you hear cutting red tape, it feels like things are about to get shaken up. Exactly. And the speed at which it's happening, like they are not wasting any time. I was reading about how they are already putting DEI staff on leave, and the focus is so intensely on streamlining and technology, that is a pretty hard swing. Yeah, that whole DEI situation is a lot. It's like they are completely pivoting away from everything the previous administration was trying to do. And the speed is just, I mean, paid leave, then a list for layoffs. It's pretty harsh. It is, and it's also a massive shift in how they view government efficiency, right? Instead of addressing systemic issues, they are going straight for, seemingly, what they deem as a distraction from productivity. I wonder how that's going to affect morale and, well, basically everything. Morale is an excellent point. Because when you think about it, we talk about life hacks and mindfulness for personal health. Could that even work within this sort of environment? Like you've got this huge upheaval, massive changes. How can you implement, say, a guided meditation in an office where everyone is waiting to be possibly laid off? That's a really good question. You're right, the level of stress and uncertainty alone is going to make it almost impossible to get any benefit out of mindfulness exercises. It's like telling someone to relax while they are being chased by a bear. It is just not cognitively conducive. I mean, what are the mental restructuring exercises for that? And it brings up the question of how you even implement something like a health initiative across all of that. It's not like you can tell people to focus on getting enough sleep when their jobs are on the line. It feels like such a top-down, almost robotic approach, that is in contradiction with the idea of holistic well-being. It doesn't take into account how stress impacts sleep, and therefore overall health. Right. And it's not just about the job insecurity, it's about the broader culture, you know. The idea of a DOGE team in each agency sounds good on paper, you know, an engineer, an HR specialist, a lawyer, but in reality, they are all going to be working under immense pressure, maybe even in fear of losing their jobs. That will affect their ability to collaborate, and how effective they'll actually be. I am seeing it from a perspective of a whole system change, where people are the system, so this doesn't sit well. Exactly. And that's a critical point. If you want to actually improve efficiency, you need buy-in from the people doing the work. It's not enough to just impose top-down changes and expect people to just adapt. That's where the cognitive aspect comes in. They need to be given the tools to deal with the stress, to manage the changes and help shape it, not just have it thrusted upon them. It is a massive change in the underlying cognitive framework of the entire US government. That's going to lead to some seriously dysfunctional patterns without proper CBT management. Yeah, I mean, it's like, imagine trying to run a marathon with a constant fear that you might fall off the treadmill. You just cannot perform at your best. From the sleep perspective, it is impossible for me to see how sleep health will be a priority. You can have all the great sleep hygiene tips in the world, but if your mind is racing with job-related anxieties, you just won't get deep, restorative sleep, and then that just creates a vicious cycle. So then efficiency just decreases, even if processes are cut. And that's where the life hack approach, I think, needs a serious reimagining. It's not just about optimizing individual routines, it's about creating an environment where those routines are actually possible. Like, how can you promote meditation when the entire workplace is in a state of upheaval? You know, I find myself thinking about how we'd integrate such a practice in the US government offices. It is such a huge undertaking, the sheer scale. Right, it needs a cognitive reframing, almost like a collective CBT session for the entire federal workforce. You can't just change the processes and expect the people to follow. It's about changing the underlying thought patterns, the cognitive biases, all that. and I'm not sure that's even in the scope of this DOGE initiative. It seems more focused on systems than the people within them. I am deeply curious how they will handle potential emotional conflicts or power dynamics within that could be hugely detrimental to the entire operation. It's like they are focusing on the external structure, on cutting red tape, but not the internal well-being of the employees. Like, you can streamline the processes, but if people are stressed, exhausted, and feel insecure, that will absolutely hinder everything. It's a really complex challenge, and I am not sure if it has the framework to approach it. Are they going to schedule nap times in the government offices now? I mean, that would be quite something. But to be serious, it's not just about naps, it's about an environment where sleep isn't a privilege but a necessity for optimal performance. Yeah, it makes me wonder about that whole unpaid Silicon Valley elites thing they mentioned. They are bringing in these high-profile recruits for 6-month stints, but will they really understand the nuances of how government works, or the underlying stress the employees are under? I mean, are they even going to be able to see how these major, sweeping changes are affecting the people? That's a great question. I think there might be an assumption here that if you fix the system, the people will be fixed as well, or at least their cognitive patterns will adjust. That's, I mean, not how human behavior works, especially not on a large scale. You have to address the underlying cognitive and emotional structures to get any kind of lasting change. Just because it's an efficient system, does not automatically create healthy thought patterns and happy individuals. Right, and it also makes you wonder about accountability. These tech executives, they are doing it for free, so who's holding them accountable for the well-being of the workforce? It feels like there's a lack of a human element here. You have these unpaid consultants going in and cutting things left and right, and I just think that if you don't address the needs of the people, you're going to create even more inefficiency in the long run. If you're pushing for better IT systems, but people are stressed out and tired, they will be making more mistakes. And it brings up the whole issue of sustainability, you know. You can implement all these changes, but if you don't address the underlying factors that contribute to stress and inefficiency, then it is just going to be a temporary fix. And that, to me, goes against every concept of mindful, sustainable lifestyle changes. It's like throwing a bucket of water on a burning building and hoping it will go out. I mean, it might work for a moment, but the fire is still going. Exactly. And that sustainability piece is crucial. It's the same with cognitive therapy. You can't just do a few CBT sessions and expect to never relapse. You need to internalize the techniques and constantly work on retraining your thought patterns. It's not a quick fix, it is a process. So, it seems like they are not using an organic and sustainable system here, and this has the potential to create even more disruption and inefficiencies in the future. And the thing is, those changes are going to ripple out and affect the broader population too. If the government isn't operating optimally, that affects everyone. You can have the best tech upgrades, but if it's not supporting the needs of the workforce in a healthy way, then all you are is streamlining dysfunction. It is the same as having the best fitness program, but if you are not sleeping, you are still creating a system that will not function. I find myself thinking back to my research into the link between chronic stress and inflammation weakening the immune system. With the current situation, this could be a major concern with the sheer magnitude of changes and pressure the employees would be under. If they are so focused on efficiency, but they are not addressing stress management, they are potentially setting themselves up for failure. We also need to consider the health implications, the direct correlation between work stress and illness. Yeah, and it's like a feedback loop. Stress creates inflammation, which then negatively affects cognition, which in turn decreases productivity and creates more stress. It's a vicious cycle. Unless they address the cognitive aspect, they are going to be in a constant state of firefighting. It's not just about efficiency, it's also about the mental health and well-being of the people who work in that system. They should be looking at how this type of restructuring impacts people, and find ways to support them through it, not just fire them. Exactly. And it's not like people can just compartmentalize their work stress and then go home and sleep like a log. That kind of stress will spill over into their personal lives, affecting their sleep, their relationships, their overall health. And it's like, how do you implement sleep optimization when people are constantly worried about losing their jobs? It needs a holistic, whole-person approach, and it doesn't doesn't seem like that's the case here. I wonder what the knock-on effects will be long-term. It's almost ironic, isn't it? They are creating a department of government efficiency, but they are overlooking one of the most critical factors in human productivity, well-being. It's like they are trying to optimize a machine, without understanding that the machine is made of people, and it needs care and nurturing to function optimally. I keep thinking about this in relation to the data one, and the potential for lifestyle interventions in cancer treatment. That's all about understanding how the body's environment can affect cell function. The government should be looking at the same thing, at how working conditions affect cognitive function and health of their employees. Yes, that's it exactly. And that's why it is so important to reframe government efficiency from a cognitive perspective. It's not just about cutting costs and streamlining processes. It's about creating an environment where people can thrive, where they feel valued, supported, and empowered. Because a system is only as effective as the people who operate it, and those people need to have a stable cognitive and emotional state. If that's not in place, the entire system is going to underperform. It's about creating conditions for that to happen, instead of just implementing changes. And it's like, they are trying to fix the machine, but ignoring that the fuel that runs that machine is the people, and their well-being. If you're cutting out diversity programs, if you're stressing people out, if you're not acknowledging the human factor, that's going to create an even bigger problem down the line. You can't just expect peak performance from someone who is sleep deprived and stressed out. You can't treat the body as a mechanical machine, or cognition as a logical computer. It has emotions, it needs fuel, it needs rest, it needs a safe environment. It's like, they are missing the opportunity to learn from the research about the mind-body connection. We are learning how things like mindful movement and meditation can improve cellular function. If the government integrated those elements into the workplace, not only would they improve employees' health, but they might even see improvements in productivity and innovation. But it seems they are just ignoring those possibilities altogether. It's a real missed opportunity. Absolutely, it is a deeply missed opportunity. Imagine if they actually invested in training programs that targeted cognitive distortions and taught people how to manage stress effectively. Imagine if they created an environment where people felt safe and supported, and that their emotional health is also being taken into account. That would not only make them more efficient and productive, but also improve their overall well-being and engagement. It's a much better approach than just firing people and replacing them with unpaid experts. Yeah, I mean, what if they had integrated exercise programs, or sleep coaching, into these workplace initiatives? That could have boosted overall health, and also increased productivity. But it's like they are going for this purely structural approach, without considering the human body, and the mind, as a whole. I find myself thinking, what if they incorporated those elements from the very start? What if they made those a central part of the program? It could have been something revolutionary. It really could have been. I am wondering if they could still implement some of these things. It's a huge operation, they are in the process of major changes, but they could still change direction towards a more mindful approach. If they approached it as a way to improve the well-being of everyone in the system, not just the bottom line, it could be a game changer. There is so much potential here, that it's almost painful to see it being overlooked. I agree. And from a cognitive perspective, this is about restructuring not only the government system, but also the government's mindset. They could implement CBT principles to help people deal with the stress and uncertainty, to reframe their thinking. It's about providing people with the tools to manage their emotions, and develop more adaptive thought patterns that will help them in the long run, even after these changes settle. It's a sustainable approach, and I think that, if they incorporate CBT techniques, they will see much better results. Absolutely. If they combined that approach with a focus on sleep and physical well-being, that would have been amazing. It's not just about the technical side of things, it's about optimizing the human element, too. It's not just about tech, it's about creating a system that supports both efficiency and health. It's about understanding that the health of the people is essential for the health of the system. They could be using this as an opportunity to integrate sleep optimization strategies, exercise programs, and stress management techniques, not just cutting jobs and expecting that will automatically increase efficiency. Right, and that holistic approach, that's where true sustainability comes from. We need to understand that well-being is not a luxury, it's a foundational element for any system to function optimally. So, the Department of Government Efficiency, it seems, could actually learn a thing or two about real efficiency. And it would also be very beneficial for public health overall. I just hope that someone in the organization can see that. Yeah, the key is to understand that the mind and the body are not separate, that your well-being has a huge impact on how you function, and how the system functions. It's about addressing the cognitive and emotional aspect of change, and finding ways to support the people that work in the system and help them to adapt. If they approach this from a perspective of cognitive health and sustainability, they could potentially see actual long-term results. It just needs a change in mindset. Exactly. It's about building a system that actually supports people, not just the bottom line. It's about creating an environment where employees are energized, healthy, and engaged. That's where you will actually see a lasting change, and true efficiency, in the long run. I think it would be fascinating to see what the long-term results will be. It's going to be a learning experience, regardless of the outcome. It really is, and I guess it's one of the things we will continue to follow closely. Thank you for the discussion, it has been truly insightful. Anything else before we wrap it up? No, I think we've covered it. Great insights from everyone. It is all very fascinating and a bit concerning, so definitely something to keep an eye on. Thanks for having me. Yeah, it was great digging into this. Thanks everyone, it's been great. Thank you everyone for joining us today and for this insightful conversation. We'll be back next week with more updates and discussions. Until then, be well.